Right, so this is a video about one of the Singer zigzagger attachments, and there are many different forms that they made over the years. This one is known as the Swiss Zig Zagger, and it says on the top made in Switzerland, so that sort of all makes sense. I think this one is generally considered to be the best zigzagger that they made, so just might be interesting to see a video of how they work, why they work a little bit better than the others. This is the automatic zigzag, I think this one's known as. This is one of the other versions of the things that they made, and this takes, you put different cams inside the device and it reads the cams and produces different varieties of zigzag stitch. Very clever, interesting to use. Not bad once you get the hang of it, but these work in a little bit of different way, which I think gives them the edge. The reason I think a lot of the Singer zigzagger attachments struggle or don't produce great results is that they are, well, first of all, they're all designed for straight stitch machines. This is a straight stitch Singer 66. It only does straight stitch. The needle just goes up and down in one place. It doesn't move from side to side like a proper zigzag machine does. So the alternative is to move the material from side to side and create a zigzag stitch that way. Now, if you've got a device that is trying to do that, and at the same time the feed of the machine, the feed dogs are trying to advance the material to make the length of stitch, you've got these two kind of devices almost fighting each other, and I think that's why a lot of them don't work. This one's a bit of an exception. There's, I have a feeling Singer made these actually, I don't know very much about it. These are slightly different. They do have that problem, but you can adjust the timing of those slightly, so you can adjust when they try and make the zigzag stitch, which most zigzaggers you can't. So maybe that's worth making another video on. Those are quite interesting. However, these zigzaggers work differently because they use a feed cover plate, and I think they're the only zigzagger to use this, as far as I know. So this, the screws just come out. This plate covers up the feed of the machine so that it is inoperable. I mean, it's still working, it just gets covered up. And that means that it's up to the attachment to do both the moving of the material from side to side and also advancing it to create the length of stitch, and it does both of those functions. I'm not actually sure whether it does them at different times or not, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. So let's just have a quick look at this device before I put it on the machine, and then we'll have a go. Fairly standard setup that you've got this forked arm here. This straddles the needle clamp of the machine, so this follows the motion of the needle up and down. That's what drives the attachment. It's what drives most of the different sewing machine attachments. And that up and down motion is revolving by one tooth at a time. A central cam, which is in here, I don't know whether you can see that in this light, I apologise if you can't, and that central cam has a groove cut in it that moves the cam follower, which is mounted underneath here, from side to side, backwards and forwards, and of course the follower is attached to the main body of the foot, so that foot is going to swing from side to side. The amount to which it swings from side to side is controlled by this lever at the back here, and that changes the fulcrum. You can see that sliding backwards and forwards, so it changes how much motion is transferred to the front of this arm. That's fairly standard stuff. Most zigzaggers work in a similar way, and yeah, that's not that exciting. But if you look at the other side of the device, there is this rocking arm here, and I hope you can see it. And this is what's responsible for making the stitch length, so doing the job of the feed dogs in the machine. And you can see as this arm lifts up and down, these two lugs that are sort of sticking out of this pressed steel plate here are rocking it backwards and forwards. And it rocks backwards and forwards regardless, it's doing that all the time. That forwards and backwards motion is transferred to a sliding plate behind it, and this plate is attached to and carries the teeth that protrude through the foot here. And adjusting the position of this pin here, there's a slot that it moves up and down in. When it's at the top of its at the top of its position, it transfers a lot of the rocking motion, becomes a backwards and forwards sliding motion, so that's giving you a long stitch. I hope you can see this bar here moving backwards and forwards. And then of course if this is adjusted down in its slot, it's going to be transferring a lot less, so you get a shorter stitch. And there's one more piece of mechanism that comes into play that's connected to that, and that's this sort of little twisted piece of steel here, this plate here, that pushes down on those feeding teeth, and it pushes down as they are dragging the material backwards, and that's just very simply controlled by, there's a sort of a bell crank arm thing here, and it's controlled by a cam on this plate here. I hope I've got all that in shot and the light's okay. The best thing I think is to put it on the machine, show it working. We'll do a bit of demonstrating, and I can do some close-ups so that you can see it in operation, because the world definitely needs another sewing machine video. Also worth pointing out, there's three of these things here. Those two are pretty much identical, and this has got a different part number. It's 160991. These are 990, I think, on the end. Yeah. The only difference being that it's got this plastic cover over it. There are very, very few slight differences other than that, which are really boring, but mechanically it's pretty much the same. And this cover just sort of floats around and rattles about, so it's fairly pointless. It's a bit odd really, but it's very tempting to just take it off anyway. I think we'll use one of these to do the demonstration. Right, so the first thing is we've got to fit this feed cover plate to the machine, and this is one of the plates that came with the attachments. I've got here, this is one that comes with the button holders, and it's the same sort of thing, so if you were missing one of these, I'm sure this would do. It's a little bit larger, but it's going to do the same job, isn't it? It just covers up the feed plates. I don't think the size of it is particularly important. Let's try and get this set up properly so that we don't break any needles or anything. So if we just check that that's in the right place and it's not going to foul the needle. And that's moved, isn't it? Looks good. Okay. Right, and of course we've got to take the foot off. This is a 66-1, I think. It's one of the early 66s. It's from about 1912, something like that. And it had the back mounting presser feet originally. And they're awkward, aren't they? I mean, they mean that you can't just swap feet unless you've got a set of back clamping attachments, which I think it does have somewhere, but there's a lot of the, I mean, you couldn't use these feet with it, for example, these attachments. So it's a very simple conversion to change the bar inside here, which carries the presser feet. You can't use the same bar, you just can't do anything with it. You've got to take it out and get a donor machine and put one on, but it's well worth doing if you've got back clamping presser feet, I think, because it makes it just a lot more usable. So this has got to go on. The forked arm has to straddle the needle clamp. It's fairly easy to fit, I think, not like some of them. The hem stitcher springs to mind as being quite a fiddle to fit on the machine. And a bit of a fiddle to use as well if you ever tried. That's one of those attachments that takes in your nice tablecloth that you've made and chews it up and spits it out and looks like it's been devoured by some rodent. It's not a very nice attachment, really. Not like this. Okay, so we should have that set up properly. That's nice and firm on there. We've got some material scraps here. The machine was threaded up with white thread, so I just left it on. If it doesn't show up, we'll have to redo it with a different colour, but I'm hoping that it will show up enough for us to be able to see the stitches. Okay, let's get those out of the way. I'm going to start with, I should just say, these are the instruction manuals that come with it. Nice garish front cover. I probably read these at some point, I don't remember, but it covers all the different things about them. It's not terribly exciting. Are they ever? So I thought if we start with moving this lever, we'll start with a straight stitch. And it achieves a straight stitch by just throwing out of action the side to side business. I don't know whether you can actually... Well, I'll just leave it as it is for now and just see what happens. So we should get a straight stitch, and here we go. It's time for tea. And yes, it has not appeared. Okay. So remember, the feed of the machine is completely out of action now. This is all... Oh, this isn't right. Oh dear. I'm not very well practiced at doing videos. There we go. Okay. Alright. This is just the mechanism which forms part of this attachment that's dragging the material through it, obviously dragging it that way, that's doing the stitch length. So all the machine's doing is the up and down needle bit. And we should get a decent straight stitch. And I should say at this point that anybody that thinks a treadle machine is not controllable doesn't know how to use one properly. They are extremely controllable. I think they're far more controllable than electric machines. You can really control them well, but it does take practice and a little bit of knowledge about how the treadle mechanism works, the dead centres and all that. Maybe that should be another video. It's quite interesting. I've been using a treadle for a long time, and I can honestly say when you get used to them, they're brilliant. Let's have a little look at the stitch that's making. It's okay. Yeah, it's not as nice as the straight stitch the machine does, but it's not bad. Ooh, that's quite bad. That's quite bad, that's a tension thing. That's not very nice at all. Let's do a little bit more and see if we can correct that. Yeah, better. Right, we're not here to watch straight stitch, so let's just move that over a little bit and we'll see how it zigzags. So that should be, this is the bite adjuster. The bite is the extent to which it zigzags. And here we go, first bit of zigzag. Oh, we've got a cam on, let me take that off. That's gonna, I'll explain those in a minute. That's an added complication we don't need at the moment. Right, standard zigzag. So we'll just do a little bit of a run like this, and then we will change the bite and change the stitch length and see how they look. And she runs at speed as well, pretty well. That's not bad. Yeah, it's good. Right, we'll make the stitch shorter now. This is going to, so the extent of the zigzag is the same, but it's just advancing the material less. So we should have a sort of, no, that's more, we want less, wrong way, sorry. We should have a sort of tighter stitch. I know you probably can't see this very well from that angle. I will move you in a minute and show you what we've been doing. Right, let's go for a wide, really wide zigzag. So this is the widest it goes, and this is quite thin cotton. It's quite a light material, so it's probably going to bunch it up a little bit. I'm guessing perhaps if we loosen the tension a little bit. All of these things, you know, you need to play around with. I really don't use zigzag stitch at all, so I'm not much interested in doing it. It's literally the ingenuity of the attachments that fascinates me. Okay, so that's quite a good wide zigzag. We'll take it back a bit and take the stitch length down, see if we can get something close to a satin stitch. We can go a bit shorter than that. If you go too short with a stitch length, you get a bunching up of the cotton, and it forms an obstruction, and it won't go under the foot very well. Oh, this is quite tight as well. Really not bad. Right, I'm going to take you off and just show you what we've got so far. So you can see back here we started with not the nicest straight stitch in the world, is it? But actually that was partly a tension problem, wasn't it? I think we started at this end. It may have got better up here, but it's not the sort of straight stitch that these machines make naturally. These are fantastic straight stitching machines, and I would choose a 66 any day. I think they're great machines. I don't like the 15 class machines, and I know that most people do. I find them awkward. I find the bobbin case and loading the bobbin awkward. The harp is not quite as large. Yeah, they sew well, don't they? But they're probably a little bit stronger than the 66s, but there's just something very elegant about these machines. They sew beautifully. The stitches are perfect. They're so easy to use. The bobbin is a drop-in bobbin. Just everything about them is lovely. They're just easy. Anyway, so yeah, beautiful straight stitch machines. Let's have a look at the zigzag. So we've got the zigzag over here, and this is a very consistent and neat zigzag. So this is what you don't get on a lot of attachments. They're very hit and miss with their zigzag. And this is pretty good. It's not a satin stitch, is it? But it's quite a tight zigzag, and you can probably push the. If we adjust this, can we get this a little bit lower? We can probably push the parameters and try and get a satin stitch or something similar. I don't know. It's difficult to tell whether it's feeding the material through or not, or whether it's just building up. I think it's just building up there. So, yeah, maybe if you were very dedicated and just building up, wanted to play around with it, you could get it to do a passable satin stitch, but nope. Yeah, not right now. I'm more interested in just showing you how it works. Right, so if I just change the camera angle and we just if I make it quite a short stitch, because I don't want to run out of material. Alright, so from this angle you can see really how the device is powered, can't you? You can see the fork going around the needle clamp, you can see the little pull thing here that is moving. There's a ratchet wheel behind here. It's moving that round one tooth at a time, and one tooth puts it in one direction, and then another, advancing it by another tooth, shoves the foot over the other side, so you get the zig and the zag. And that bit's fairly simple. You can see also the little cam at the bottom here, which is pushing down on this bell cranked lever with this finger at the front. That's pushing down on the feed at the right time. You can't really see it moving, but it is putting pressure on it and making sure that fabric is dragged through. And then over this side, you've got the rocking lever, and you can just see the feed is only advancing very slightly because I've got the stitch very short. But that's all being transferred by this motion work here. Nice little device. Right, the other thing that I wanted to talk about is the way that this device uses the cams, which is what I accidentally had on in the first place. And just very briefly, the type of zigzaggers that take these cams here, so this thing here, that's very clever, because it will, when it's moving the fabric from side to side, creating the zigzag, it can move the fabric anywhere in between the two extremes, and it can stay there, linger there, or move it back, so you can get a wide range of stitches, just like it says on the tin. Yeah, they don't quite look like that in real life, but they're not bad. This works a bit differently. It's got some variety. It's probably its weakness is that it can't put the fabric anywhere in between its extremes. It's either over one side or it's over the other, and it can't go in between. It's just the way that it works. The little toothed wheel here, as I said, it gets rotated one tooth at a time. What these cams do actually is they block it from being rotated. So they effectively make it do a straight stitch for one stitch, or two stitches, or however many the cam tells it to do. They just block this from rotating. So if we put this on, I don't know which one this is number 10. If we put this on, and there's probably a correct way of doing this if you are very academic and read the book, but we'll just shove that on there, and then we'll just watch what it does. So if we turn the machine over slowly, we should find that, I hope you can see, there are now these sort of two toothed wheels on here. The one at the front, which is the one I've just put on the cam, and the one behind, and the one behind is controlling the zigzag. So whenever the behind wheel moves, we get a zig or a zag. The front cam blocks it. It lifts this pawl out of the way and stops it from rotating the back cam. That's how this device works. So there the back cam is rotated. There it's not being. That's been blocked. This one it's going to rotate. This one it's going to be blocked. Alright, so it's fairly simple, but it is limiting. And if we run this and have a look at what's happening at the needle, Okay, so I don't know what you call this stitch, but it's doing a couple of stitches on the right and a couple of stitches on the left. So it's like a castellated type zigzag thing. Probably a posh name for it. So you get lots of these, here you are, lots of these little cams, and they've got nice numbers on them, and the only one I can really imagine being very useful is the blind stitch one. That's useful if you're doing a blind hem, and I can't see that, but I'm sure there's a blind stitching one in there somewhere. And then if you wanted to have fun and make all the nice pretty decorative stitches that it tells you can do in the book, don't believe everything you read in the book, then you can probably spend years of your life trying to exhaust all the different combinations of stitches, but we'll have a look at this one in a minute. Let's drag it out and have a look. Okay, so yeah, it's a sort of it actually just looks a bit like a zigzag. That's desperately unexciting. So maybe we could because we're doing a nice video and everything, find one of these that's less boring. What do we think? That one looks exciting, doesn't it? And everything's relative. Everything's relative. Let's put this one on the C. Okay. And yes, they come in these nice little plastic cases. Oh, look, it tells you on there what it can do. It can do all these wonderful things. Right, here we go. That's exciting, isn't it? This was going to be a short video and it's running quite long. Okay, that's actually quite nice. I take back all the horrid things I said. That's quite pretty. Yeah, works quite well. Let's just use this spare bit of material to do a slightly longer stitch and just see how that looks. Okay, here we go. Come on. Do you know, I think it's definitely less pretty. No, that looks a bit more boring, but anyway, you get the idea. You can see how it works. It's a good attachment. If you want a zigzagger, this is the one to go for, I think. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sorry it's been a bit long. Comment down below if you want to. Everybody says that, so I think I should. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. Let's just have an overview. There's the machine. There she is. Good workhorse, this one is. Fairly worn, but still working beautifully. Look at that. And it's probably too dark to see, but for those of you that don't know what a treadle is, there's all the stuff going on underneath. No electricity required. And perfectly controllable. Good. Thanks for watching.